Welcome to the Rap Soul Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of music that moves our hearts and gets our feet tapping. This is the intersection of rap and soul music from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We appreciate you for listening. Share this podcast with a friend or family member who loves music as much as you do. The podcast is hosted by 12 Kyle. Next up, the Rap Soul Podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the Rap Soul Podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do each and every week. Again, this is the Rap Soul Podcast. This is the intersection where we have discussion about music and artists from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s when it comes to rap, hip hop, soul, and R&B. Simply put, folks, this is the best music podcast that you've never heard until right now. Again, I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do each and every week. Shout out to those of you who are watching on YouTube. You see the title, Happy Birthday to Hip Hop. At the time of this recording, the day that this episode is being released, August 11th, 2025, it is officially the 52nd birthday of hip hop. So we want to say happy birthday to hip hop. It has widely been recognized that hip hop started on Sedgwick Avenue at a party that was hosted by a young DJ by the name of Clive Campbell. He went by the name Kool Herc. Shout out to Kool Herc. We appreciate you. We love you. And thank you for your contributions to this genre. But it's widely recognized that hip hop was started that night. Clive Campbell had an idea to raise some funds for some back to school supplies, I think for his sister or something like that. And he had a party jam in the basement. And that's where it's widely been recognized that hip hop started on Sedgwick Avenue in the Boogie Down Bronx, 1973. Now, what's interesting to me and now to you is that maybe about, I don't know, a good 25 miles away from the Bronx, there was a child in Newark, New Jersey that was 8 months and 2 days old. His name, 12 Kyle. So I've been around as long as this genre has been here. Now, granted, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about hip hop and let's just don't get it twisted. It wasn't even referred to as hip hop back then. It was rap, right? I did not get introduced to rap probably until somewhere around 79, 1980 with the Sugar Hill Gang with Rapper's Delight. And so my journey with this genre goes back that far, but I wasn't there day one. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that. I was around day one, but again, I was in a crib somewhere in Newark, New Jersey, being very oblivious to the fact that this music genre was being started by Clive Campbell, aka Kool Herc. Nonetheless, again, it's turning 52 today. And I wanted to take some time out to wish hip hop a happy birthday and ask a couple of questions of myself as well as you, the listeners and the viewers, because I think it's very important. Hip hop is something that has obviously, like I said, been around for a while. It really has it hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. I often talk about how as a young kid, especially as I got into, my young adolescent years of late elementary school, middle school, when I was really falling in love with the genre, falling in love with rap music more specifically, it was such a novelty. I mean, like, you just didn't know, that if it was going to be around for a long period of time, because the knock that we always heard was that, oh man, hip hop is just going to be like, I'm sorry, they said, oh man, rap is just like dance, or it's just like disco. It's only going to be around. It's going to be like breaking. It's only going to be around for a little while. Nobody's going to break dance their whole life. Nobody's going to play disco their whole life. It'll be gone in 3 years. And that's what we heard. And so a young 12 Kyle really would go to school and come home and hope that rap or hip hop in this particular instance was still there. Because we had no way of knowing if it was going to be there or not when you got home from school. Funny thing to think about, but that's how we thought in the mid 80s. Nonetheless, it stuck around and it's still going to this day. And it evolved from rap into hip hop. So, I do have some questions. One question I have is, why is hip hop important to you, or is it important at all? For me to answer that question, hip hop is everything. It is extremely important to me because it is something that I've literally grown up with my entire life. In my formative years, a lot of what I did, a lot of what I accomplished was, I would say, inspired by, motivated by, or hip hop was right there. And it's always been something that has been there for me, for lack of a better term, like a friend. And it's always been important to me. I think one of the things that I always loved about hip hop was that it pushed me to open up, and it pushed me to expand beyond my surroundings, beyond my hometown of Florence, South Carolina. It inspired me to be better. It entertained me. It kept me out of trouble. It kept me doing things that I like to do. And no matter what was going on in the world, I could always turn to hip hop, and I could always get something from it. And I think that says a lot, because I don't know that you could say that about a lot of different genres of music. Now, some people can. I don't look at any other genre of music the same way that I look at hip hop. Hip hop is something that was made by people that look like me. It was made by young people that look like me. It was made by people who, made literally and figuratively made something out of nothing. Now hip hop is a multi-billion-dollar, thing. It is a culture. It is a way of life. It has been capitalized and scrutinized and monetized and any other eyes you'd want to use. But it's important to me. It's always been important. I don't necessarily know that I'll ever, quote unquote, outgrow hip hop, because you can't outgrow something that grew with you. So that's where I am with that. Another question that I have is, where would you be without hip hop? Do you think that you would be where you are if hip hop didn't exist? The answer for me is very simple. No, because hip hop in a lot of ways saved me. And I don't mean like in the church form of saved me, or that I was going to be, a career criminal or anything like that, or I was going to sell drugs for the rest of my life. But hip hop gave me an outlet. It gave me a space to exist. And it gave me something that I think a lot of kids in my era didn't have: a chance. Now, I love hip hop. I love hip hop. Hip hop is in me. I am hip hop. But I'll tell you this: I never had a desire to rap one bar. As much as I love the genre, as much as I love rap music, as much as I love the albums that I grew up on and the songs that I grew up on, all million of them, there's never been a desire for me to rap. I did rap. I did record a rap song. Shout out to my boy Jay Fresh. That song is still somewhere on a floppy disk in his ASR 10. And I told him if that music ever saw the day of light, I'd choke him out. Because only he and I have only ever heard that recording. It was a song called Drop That Booty. But that's beside the point. Nonetheless, I had no aspirations to be a rapper. But I will say this much: I am very much in awe and have a lot of respect for those who do, because I understand that it's very, very difficult. It's not an easy thing to do, and your art is always subjective. So even now, in this space that we operate in 2025 at the time of this recording, I don't necessarily know that I would have been able to handle some of the pushback or feedback or trolling that goes on with today's fans and how they consume music. It's different than it was when I was growing up, but I mean, that was a long time ago, and we didn't have social media. All we had was the music. And quite honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed just having the music without all of the talking going on. But it is what it is. But nonetheless, I can't tell you where I would be without hip hop. Hip hop literally saved me. More specifically, as a kid who was into the music and really relished in, being around people, like-minded people who love the genre of music, it made sense for me. It spoke to me. And I've often said this, and I always get dirty looks when I say this, but and I'm going to say it here on this podcast. I personally think that hip hop spoke to me the way that gospel music speaks to people who are, who listen to gospel music that are in the church. Gospel music never spoke to me the way that hip hop did. And there's no knock on gospel music. I'm someone who grew up in the church, and I still go to church from time to time, and I'm very spiritual, very much a religious cat. But the music doesn't move me the same way. It just doesn't. I mean, like, you can play 10,000 gospel songs, and I'll clap my hands, I'll tap my feet, but it's not the same. You put on Eric B. as president, and I'm going to whop it out. You put on Straight Outta Compton, and I'm going to be jamming. You put on, an Uncle Luke song, and I'm going to be jamming. You put on a Jay-Z song, and so forth and so on, all the way down the line. So, no, it doesn't do much for me, but that's what this always did, and it always has spoken to me, and it's, in a lot of ways, it saved me. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle podcast, hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before, from nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between. The 12 Kyle podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul podcast and enjoy the vibes. And I flash back to the time when my parents got divorced. I think at that particular time, hip hop was definitely there for me, because if I didn't have hip hop at the time, there ain't no telling what I would have done, because the divorce came out of nowhere. But I felt like, it was there for me, and it continued to be as I got older. It doesn't mean that I wasn't ever frustrated with hip hop, because I have been, and I've spoken quite vividly about, my frustrations with hip hop and rap, and, how the music and the genre has changed, and changed for the worse. I'm not even going to hold you. It's in a lot of ways, it has changed for the worse. And in some ways, it's not the same hip hop that I grew up on, because face facts, folks, I'm 52 at the time of this recording. I'll be 53 in December, right? But the cool part about it is I have an era of music that I listen to, and I can always go to that music, and I can always listen, and that music will always be there. That music that helped formulate who Young 12 Kyle would be is still there. So I can always tap into that music. That music is never going anywhere. Even if hip hop fell off the face of the earth right now, I still have that music in my possession, and I hold it very dearly and closely to my heart, as many of you do with your music. And so it's never going away. The last question I had is, how far can hip hop go? That's a great question. I really don't have a great answer for it, because hip hop can go as far as the people who are in it will go. Now, here's the thing. Within hip hop culture, everybody that's in hip hop culture ain't hip hop. That's pretty clear if you open your eyes. That being said, it's up to people who are in hip hop's culture to cultivate the culture of hip hop, if that makes sense. And that has to happen continually. You have to uplift and push the platform. You have to push the music that you're going to put out. You have to be supportive of the music that you put out. You have to be willing to accept a lot of the music that's being put out. You also have the right to be critical about the music that's being put out as well, because quite frankly, some of the music that's being put out in hip hop isn't as good as it should be. But if you're a fan, and if hip hop runs through your veins, then you have every right to say what it is that you feel about why the music and the genre isn't where you think it should be. But it could go, there's no telling where it could go. I mean, like, I never thought I could be watching an NBA game in Salt Lake City, Utah on a TV channel, and you could hear Hypnotized by the Notorious B.I.G. being played over the loudspeakers in that particular arena. I would have never thought that would happen. If you told me it happened in Atlanta, at the stadium in Atlanta, at State Farm Arena, or if you told me that it happened in Madison Square Garden for the New York Knicks, okay, that's cool. That's acceptable because, you know, Atlanta, New York, you know. But Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah, home of, you know, John Stockton and Karl Malone, no, I would have never guessed. But Biggie, the Notorious B.I.G. famously once said, "You never thought that hip hop would take it this far." Hip hop can go so far. It's come a long way, but it's got even farther to go. And where it goes, it really depends on not so much as my generation, but the generation that has followed us. Because for my generation, I think it's pretty safe to say, like, our hip hop ain't going nowhere. Like, we're still going to go see the people that we like to see when they come out on tour. In fact, just last night, I was at a concert for Little Brother. Shout out to Little Brother, they're on tour right now. They are on their final tour as far as they're concerned. And I saw him here in Atlanta. Shout out to the homie King Germ, who came through from Pod and Saved Our Marriage. King Germ drove up from Tallahassee to come see, you know, Little Brother. And what's weird is that I've known King Germ for almost 10 years now and never met him in person. Finally got a chance to meet him and hung out with him last night at the concert. My homeboy Ryan from my crew from back home, he was here. He was there as well, so we all hung out. Shout out to B-Eazy. B-Eazy came through as well, and Chuck the Gambler. So we all were kicking it at the Little Brother concert. And that's the thing that I always loved about hip-hop, was that hip-hop has an innate way of bringing people together from all different walks of life. Even last night in that crowd, I could see white people, black people, Hispanic people, Asian people. I mean, straight, gay, LGBTQIA, a little bit of everybody. And everybody was in there to jam with Little Brother. Now, if you're watching this or you're listening to this, you don't know who Little Brother is, do yourself a favor and find out. They're a tremendous rap group, and I love them. And I've been a fan since day one. And so, but I love the fact that over my time, hip hop has been able to take me to places that I would eventually go to. And then sometimes it takes me to places I've never been before. I've never been in Marcy Projects before. I've never been in Cabrini Green projects. I've never been in the jungles in LA. But you listen to the music, and the music from these artists brings you to those places. And I never knew where Compton was. You know, when Eazy said he was straight out of Compton, I didn't know what Compton was or where it was. Of course, you could use points of reference, but there was no internet back then, so I couldn't just look it up, right? But those artists from those different parts of the United States and quite frankly across the world have brought us together to really immerse ourselves into this music and this genre. And it continues to happen each day. And I'm thankful for that, because it wasn't always like this. I mean, there were times where hip hop was very ugly. There was times where hip hop was very dirty. The business of hip hop has not always been kind to its artists. Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest famously said, Industry rule number 4080. Record company people are shady. That ain't changed. They still are shady. But, it's been a pleasure to watch some of these artists grow. We've lost quite a few artists, and I've talked about it on this podcast as well. But more specifically, it's been a blessing and a beauty to watch people like myself who were young and very eager to take on the world, and we had a little battery in our back called hip hop, and it propelled us to do things that we didn't think we could do. It was that time where a young 12 Kyle who was lifting weights, getting ready to play a game for South Carolina State University, put on some DMX or some Jay-Z or some Poison Clan, and was able to finish his lift or finish his workout because he was motivated by the music that he was listening to. And it helps. It does so much. And I can honestly say there's never been a day in my life since I've became of age where I didn't listen to any hip hop. Never. That day I'm going to listen to some hip hop every single day. A day that I don't listen to hip hop is a day that I'm probably not around anymore. It's been that important to me. So those questions I wanted to ask to you, I want you guys to kind of think about what it is that I asked, because I think it's important. And I think, if you look at yourself, you have to ask yourself, well, what did it do for me? Or what is it doing for me? What has it done and what can it do? And then more importantly, how far can hip hop go? It's gone so far, but it's still miles and miles. We've got so many more years. Again, it's only 52 years old. That's relatively young when you think about how long jazz has been around, rock and roll, country music, the whole nine. And so R&B as well. So what I want to challenge you is to, enjoy this music, enjoy the genre, enjoy the people that's in it. And I know that's not easy to do because, sometimes it's hard with people in hip hop because you could love hip hop and just hate the people in it. But I think ultimately what we want to do as fans is hold on to something that's ours. And I get it, because as much as hip hop is globally, it still belongs to me. It belongs to Clive Campbell, Kool Herc. It belongs to Run DMC. It belongs to Jay-Z. It belongs to MC Lyte. It belongs to NWA. It belongs to Salt and Pepper. It belongs to Luke and the 2 Live Crew. It belongs to LL Cool J. It belongs to Public Enemy. It belongs to, Kendrick Lamar. It belongs to Nipsey Hussle. It belongs to any and everybody that you can think of. It belongs to Little Brother. It belongs to Outkast. It belongs to A Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul. I could keep going on and on and on. Ultimately, hip hop belongs to us. And as we celebrate hip hop's birthday, my challenge to you is to appreciate it, take care of it, love it, live it, and don't let it die. Because it's always been here for us, and we want to keep that going for as long as we're here. That's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for checking out this edition of the Rap Soul Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching and subscribing. Share this with a friend. Like and share it with a friend. Also, we have the flagship station. Don't forget about that. It's called the 12 Kyle Podcast. We drop new episodes all across every DSP as well as YouTube on Thursdays and Sundays. The Rap Soul Podcast drops every Monday and every Friday. If you want to hit us up on social media, 12 Kyle, Rap Soul Podcast across the board. Also, we have merch for the 12 Kyle Podcast. We have merch. Just go to the 12 Kyle Podcast page, click the merch link, and you can buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. Again, folks, this is the Rap Soul Podcast, the place where we have intersection and discussions about rap, soul, hip hop, and R&B from the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. Folks, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheer.
Thank you for listening. This concludes the episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast. You can find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the podcast on social media. And feel free to continue this discussion on our Reddit page. More importantly, Share this podcast with a friend or family member who loves music as much as you do. Until next time, 5,000.